This is where we insert the theme song. Right?
Welcome back to the Backstairs Podcast. I'm one of the hosts. I'm Aaron.
I'm Scott.
I'm not a host, but I'm Janelle. Hello.
You're a host tonight.
Yes, you're
because
I wouldn't even say like you're honorary anymore. Like you're in that seat a lot now.
Oh. Well,
You know,
usually I'm over there, but I'll take it. Yes.
Well, you look good there.
Thank you.
Well, there's no seat there today, so you can't sit over there.
Yeah, we're
That's
missing a friend of ours.
Mm-hmm. More than a friend, I would say.
More than words.
Is he a lover? Is that what we're saying?
Well, he's my cousin, so
So that would be really weird. But Aaron, he is just a lover, isn't he?
Yes.
To you. Yes.
I mean, in a way where it's like not like physical,
not physical love.
like a lover, but not a fighter type of.
something like that.
Yeah.
No, John's away. He's on a business trip.
Yeah.
Meeting.
A meeting out of state.
Yeah. It's,
Yes.
so
Sounds very hush hush.
I think it sounds very. He's on a business trip. That sounds better.
Away on business.
He's away on business.
Away on business.
He's a big league now.
Mhm.
So is there anything do you guys want to update us on or anything before we get started with our guests?
I don't know. I don't have any updates. Have you got any updates?
Nothing that I want to talk about.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
But perhaps later.
No updates yet, but stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned. Maybe. Maybe not.
Maybe.
Just ignore this if not. It's fine.
We'll go back and edit it.
Yeah, just cut everything.
Cut that
out.
in post, Aaron.
I was thinking that I haven't introduced anybody this year, and I kind of want to keep the train rolling.
Oh.
Like I don't think I've introduced anybody.
Maybe not.
Maybe not.
Yeah, I think I would like just like let one of you guys.
I think Scott should do it because Scott has a close personal connection with this person.
Oh, well, I guess it makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It does make
All
sense.
Mhm.
Well, all right. We're going to introduce our guest, the beautiful.
Yes.
Is she talented?
Oh, she is talented. Very talented.
Is she beautifully talented?
Beautifully talented is two of the words that you would
You're
not talk
worthy.
about
We're
when you
not.
talk
Not the
about
only
this.
two words.
Not the only two words.
Right.
Just a couple of the many words. The many words
to describe
to describe
our guest.
our wordsmith.
Mm.
I like that
Possibly.
word.
She does play with words quite often.
That I do.
She does write a lot. It's Lisa Moore. Welcome
Ooh.
to the
Yes,
Backstairs
thank
Podcast.
you. Thank you. I've been looking forward to this
This is very great
with
to have you
much
here.
nervousness and excitement. And thank you for having me.
Yeah, I think this has been like a year because we reached out to you in the fall, right? To set something
I
up.
think it was the fall. You
Yeah.
know, and when you called me, I was like, "Oh, that's in February." I can, who's thinking about February? And of course, as it rolled around, it's like, "Oh, yeah, I did say I would do that." So that's kind of
Here
how
we
it
are.
felt for me. Yeah.
Any regrets at all? So
Not
far?
at all.
Good.
Not at all.
Not yet.
We'll check in again
And then
later.
it's that it's Groundhog Day
Oh,
and
yes.
the
That's
right.
folk
That's right.
and my
We could
friend
be-
Rocky's birthday
Oh.
and the coldest
So we picked a really
friggin'
good.
night of the year.
We picked a good day for this.
Yes, you
Yeah.
certainly did. You certainly
Groundhog
did.
Day. We could be stuck in a loop. We'll be here forever.
We could, like Tom Brady.
Yeah. No, he retired now.
I know. Again,
Maybe.
Tom Brady, friend of the podcast.
Yes.
another goat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So, Lisa, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself to start? Where do you come from?
Well,
What?
I'm a transplant.
Yeah.
I grew
Mhm.
up in Ohio in
Okay.
a small town, and but I was thinking about my theater resume today, and I was in plays in high school, and I did everything I could to get out of my small town, and so I was successful. I went to college, and Most of my friends did not. That was a very radical thing to do in the early 70s, to leave a town like that and go off to college. And I did. I went to college in Indiana. I went to Notre Dame. I was in the second year of girls being admitted.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And what a bizarre place it was. Oh my gosh.
I
It
can
was
imagine.
I never had a female teacher. The ratio was something like 10-3 when I
Wow.
was admitted. I was often the only girl in class and asked things like, "So, Miss Moore, could you give us the women's perspective on, by priests who had never had girls in class?"
Oh, man.
I would never put myself in that kind of situation now, but at the time, I just I knew about Notre Dame. I grew up in a Catholic family. My father was a huge football fan.
Mhm.
So this to me was like, if I could go there, why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
So I did. And I wasn't sure what to major in. I changed majors a lot, but I ended up as an English and theater major.
Okay.
So but my theater experience in college was not mostly acting. I did small little parts when they needed an extra body or somebody who could dance or, things like that. But I really loved the backstage work. I loved being a stage manager. I liked being a director. I liked the building of sets and choreographing and costuming and the production end of things. So then after college, I married a man a week after I graduated, and we got jobs at Hebron Academy.
Oh.
Okay.
In this was the winter of the year 1977, and we moved to this godforsaken little school in a part of the country I had never been to before. I had been basically in my small little town in Ohio and Notre Dame. And that's pretty much it.
Wow.
So we get on a plane, we come here to interview in the winter.
Obviously.
Yes. And then of course the first year we were here was the winter of 78. So we were here during the
Big
massive
storm. Yep.
snowstorm. But we were hired because we both were English teachers. They needed 2 English teachers and they wanted to start a theater program. So we came and we started a theater program. And it was wildly successful with the kids, the faculty, the community. We did Godspell and Pippin and, The Good Doctor, and everything was just a smashing success. And we divorced 3 years later. I had a child and we lived there in a house that burned down. It was an Academy-owned house, but it burned down. And so I had this wonderful experience in many ways at Hebron. I learned to be a good teacher. I learned to be a good director, but I was kind of the wife in the pair. So anyway, at that point, we went different ways, but I stayed in teaching, and I was hired at Greeley High School. A few years later, I went back to school and got my teaching certificate, which you didn't have to teach at Hebron, but you did in public school.
Right.
So I went back to school, got my teaching certificate, and taught at Greeley and directed plays. And one of my questions was about this. We called it the play that wouldn't die. We had a 1-act play one year that just kept winning and winning and winning and winning and winning. And the levels of competition were like 2 weeks apart. So we had to have a couple of rehearsals in between to kind of keep the kids,
Keep
in
it
the
fresh,
spirit.
Yep.
But it wouldn't end. We ended up going to Newport, Rhode Island and winning.
Wow.
It was great. It was a wonderful experience, but really wore me out.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, I met my current husband. So he was from Lewiston, Maine. He was also in graduate school in Boston. So I moved to Boston to be with him and directed some plays at Wayland High School outside of Boston.
Okay.
And taught school there. But after a few years, I had a son before, and we had another son. we decided to move back to Maine, which is where his roots were and my heart was. So we moved back to Harrison in 1996. So it's been, more than 25 years that we've been around here.
Wow.
So I shifted from teaching and directing to writing at that point.
Okay.
And Scott and I met through a storytelling event at Celebration Barn with Sally Jones.
Yep.
But I feel like we really connected during More to Come, which is a play that I wrote, an original play.
Okay.
So, but I'm also a poet. I do a lot of, readings, performing. I've been very involved in the Norway Arts Festival, getting that off the ground 20 years ago.
Great.
I've been very active. I was one of the founding board members at the Allendale Community Garden. I've been the president of the board at Fair Share, 3 or 4 different stints. So I'm pretty rooted in the community. But unlike all of you, I haven't had a lot of direct community theater experience here.
Yeah.
So I kind of come at it from a different angle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything that you were just mentioning is like what made like me and Janelle fall in love with Norway. I feel like,
Yeah.
like having a public garden and the fair share market
And the arts festival.
and the art festival.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's an amazing community.
It really is.
I knew Tony Montanaro. I have a funny story about that if you want to hear it, but
Always.
it's, yeah. And I knew, I didn't ever know Leos Matolci, but I've known his daughter very well over the years.
Yeah.
So I think of those two as really the beginnings of this arts community that has grown here over the years.
So what made you move to the writing? You were doing a lot of play.
I had one experience. I was teaching, and it was 87 when the Red Sox almost won the World Series.
86.
86. Okay, yes. Thank you. They
Remember
won in
that, Aaron?
87. They almost won in 86. And my son was 8 years old. And we just went through this whole agonizing experience with him. And I wrote an editorial about it like the day after. And I sent it to the Boston Globe, and they published it like
That's
that
cool.
day.
Wow.
And it was such a rush for me
I can imagine.
that I thought, I want to be a writer. I mean, I'm like, I just want to be a writer. I've always been a writer. And I was kind of burning out with teaching. And I was in a fish out of water in Wayland. I don't know if none of you know Wayland. It's a very wealthy community. I did well there, but I had nothing in common really with the community, other than the Metco students who came in from Boston on the buses in the mornings. But that experience of seeing something that I wrote that was so personal, published so quickly, it just kind of lit another fire for me.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I left teaching and kind of went out thinking I was going to be a freelance writer. And that's what I've been ever since. So
Very cool.
And I've been able to, mostly I write for educational publishers, but I write short stories.
Yep.
I write poems. I write for travel magazines, and I write plays.
Yeah.
So,
That's so
Very
cool.
cool.
Awesome.
That's so cool.
Yeah. I didn't know that story about why you get into writing, Anna.
mhm.
It's a good one. I like
Yeah.
it. I should preface that by saying I was cheering for the Mets in 86. So
I'm sorry.
my feelings,
sure.
my
I didn't know
feelings
you
were
then.
different. My feelings were different. I could have written about it, but I was much more excited than the Red Sox
Yeah.
fans were. So
Yeah, it was a big, big deal when you lived there.
yeah. Well, I was in Mass
Uh-huh.
when it, the big game of Game 6 of
Yes,
86
with
when
the
when they thought they had it.
With
and
the
it
ball
went
through the legs and the Bill
I
Buckner.
experienced that with
my-
a bunch of Red Sox fans. And
You remember this?
it was,
Do
you remember
you?
that? You guys remember that?
Were you guys born
We
yet?
were
No.
pre-utero at that point.
Very free.
Well, my son was 8, and he was at the age where like it never occurred to him that they could lose.
Yeah.
He
yeah.
had been on this roll
Yeah.
all
Mhm.
season.
Yeah.
And he played baseball and he followed in the baseball cards. And it was just, he, would wear his little Wade Boggs uniform and sing the Star Spangled Banner. And it was just so touching.
Yeah.
And then honestly, it was like the whole thing changed in a moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it all just went, a
Okay.
different
It
direction.
went through the legs.
It went through the legs. It literally did.
That's great. So,
Yeah.
you said you had a story about Tony Montanaro.
Yeah, it's a good one. Our house had burned down at Hebron, and the Academy helped us rent a house out in West Paris because the house burned down in October. They literally had nowhere to put us other than
Wow.
a dorm room.
Mm.
And we lived in a dorm room the house burned in October. We lived there for a couple months with a newborn baby.
Wow.
And we finally over Christmas vacation just said, we have to make a change. We
Yeah.
can't, this is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So we found a farmhouse out in West Paris and we commuted to Hebron every
Mhm.
day. And, but in the summer, I got a phone call because I was, we were directing and somehow Tony had heard that I did some costuming. So he called me and said, we want you to make these bodysuits for us. These stretchy bodysuits,
Mhm.
whole bodysuit, black, stretchy stuff. We want to be able to pee when we have them on. So there's got to be some way. These were all men
Okay.
that you got to design that into the suit.
A little zipper.
So we actually used Velcro. But,
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
Yes. We had to find a soft Velcro, which was not an easy thing.
Yeah, I would.
Mhm.
Velcro, it's kind of hard.
Yeah.
So, but this group of men came to my house one day to be measured for the bodysuits. So, there was lots of laughter and just all these measurements, the torso and the measurement from the neck and around and under the legs and where does the hole go? And, so I had never met Tony and it was a play in my living room. These mimes and these actors, very
Mhm.
talented
Yeah.
people came to be measured for these bodysuits, but they were, we just didn't stop laughing. And the jokes were just flying all over the place, And so that's how I met Tony.
Ah,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Hmm.
That's cool. So, one of the reasons we brought you here, since you're writing now, you're not really doing any theater, although it wasn't that long ago we did the play, although it's starting to.
It's been a few
Yeah, well,
years.
it's been a
Almost
few
6
years now.
years.
Wow.
Yeah.
But, in the name community theater, there's community,
Mm.
right? And you're part of my community theater family, I consider. And these two are part of my community theater family, but you guys didn't know each other until tonight. So,
Right.
I mean, you've seen them
Sure.
before, but you didn't know them. And I think it's interesting how we bring our communities together.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, like you were talking about working with Fair Share, and what is that? That's another community. The Allen Day Garden is another community. What are your thoughts on bringing communities together? And
Well, it's interesting. I think we live in a smallish community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I think we're little bubbles often. We have our community theater bubble and our Fair Share bubble and our Allen Day bubble and our McLaughlin Garden bubble. And
Mhm.
there's
Cafe.
yes, and then there's the teachers and then there's the snowplow drivers and then, but we all tend to stay in our comfort zones
Mhm.
and in our bubbles. So one of the things that I'm really interested in, and it sounds like you are too, is finding places where those bubbles can overlap,
Yeah.
intersect, intertwine. And it sounds like an easy thing to do, but I find it incredibly challenging
Yeah.
to do. And of course, COVID has made it even more challenging.
Right.
Because not only do we not socialize with our bubbles, some of us don't leave the house very often.
Yeah.
So I do think there's opportunity, and maybe this is that kind of opportunity for those circles to intersect, the Venn diagram instead of the two circles.
Right.
So.
Right. The Venn diagram, that leads me to something. We have letters come in from time to time.
Oh.
Yes. And I got to find this letter. I have this letter here. And I'm going to bring it up. Here it is right here. There's a letter.
You found that pretty quickly.
I'm pretty quick about that.
I see we've forgotten the imaginary mailbox.
Oh, right. The imaginary mailbox that's over there behind the camera.
It's behind the camera.
Right.
That
I
mailbox.
grabbed it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I already grabbed it before we
Oh,
came.
I see.
So that's-
Yes.
And then took a
fine.
photo.
Yes.
Mhm.
And I took
Yes.
a picture of it and a little snapshot. And here it is. This is a letter from a mutual friend of ours talking about you. And I thought I'd just read a little bit about it. Lisa Moore. One could not live in Norway and not know who Lisa Moore is. Think a web or a Venn diagram.
Whoa.
And at the center of each is Lisa Moore.
Hmm.
She just gathers people about her. It's who she is, a tireless innovator and a lot generator of creative ideas. People simply love her, as do I. Over the years, she has been instrumental in helping the food co-op, running workshops for writers and poets, publishing several booklets of her poetry, and making the yearly Norway Art Festival a success. I could go on and on. Lisa's lovely poems often are snapshots that commemorate events and people. For a period, she owned a house in Norway that became a beehive of community activity. And it is there she connected art, theater, and history in her original play about the life of Duncan Slade. Bringing Duncan to life and working with Lisa, husband Lee, and the cast was a joy, especially to me, who played the old Duncan. Old Duncan. The only male role I ever got to play. A standing room only crowd saw the show, and we were excited to learn that Amanda Hootery was bringing it to the Celebration Barn. Celebration Bar.
Ooh.
There's a bar
I
at the
kind of
barn.
like the sound
Is
of that.
that the speakeasy
Yes.
in the Celebration Barn?
You got something on your mind, Scott?
We were touring. The barn also hosted a This Is What Happened show in which Lisa shared a deeply personal story with her audience. Another example of Lisa as a performer and storyteller. Now, Lisa's new stories are often Facebook posts featuring photos of 3 beautiful little granddaughters that she and husband Lee dote on, and messages of pride about their 2 successful sons. Thanks, Lisa, for being the force you are and for all you do in Norway. We look forward to more creative projects. That's from our dear friend, Sally Jones.
Oh, Sally. She's such a love.
She is. She writes up little letters for us for our show, and we love to have
That's
her
great.
be a part of it.
Yeah.
So why don't we talk a little bit more about more to come? What
Sure.
got you started on that?
Well, it was Duncan. I mean, I would, if I have a point to make here, it would be if there's someone or something in your community that you want to celebrate, do it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Just do it. And it was a great experience. It was a wonderful friendship that we had. I knew him when he was in his older years,
Mhm.
but he thanked me so often for helping him. But
Mhm.
he gave me so much. He was a World War II veteran. He worked in industry for Uniroyal and had this kind of midlife change. And he, unfortunately divorced his wife and left his kids and became an artist. So it was quite a story. He was really, I think anybody who knew him was influenced by him. He was an art teacher at the middle school here. And when we were working on the play, and getting a little publicity, so many young adults would say, "Oh my gosh, he was my art teacher." And I remember him. I remember how he talked to us. It was different than any other teacher. So he passed away, and I don't know. We were at the time, the arts festival was, as Sally mentioned in her letter, we really were making a point of celebrating each year something historical. There would be a focus figure. And I think it was the 5th or 6th year we had done that. And I proposed that we feature Duncan. And it was met with, yes, that's perfect. And at that point I decided, I'm going to write a play.
Yeah.
And I had kind of a vision of what it would be, but it all happened fairly quickly. Usually I have a play in process right now, but it's been in process for years and years.
Yeah.
This happened kind of within a year. We made the decision to focus on Duncan, and then I thought, I can just do this. And I knew I didn't want to be really ambitious with it. So I decided to do a 3-scene, 1-act play.
Yeah.
And get 3 actors to play Duncan at 3 different parts of his life. So there's a young pilot Duncan during World War II in scene 1. There's a middle-aged teacher Duncan in scene 2, and that's who Scott played. And then there was the older painter Duncan in scene 3. And we talked about different, I wanted to just ask, I didn't want to have auditions.
Yep.
I wanted to just kind of tap some friends and do it that way. And so it was interesting. We talked about different older actors that could have played Duncan as an older man. But when I thought about Sally, it just seemed so perfect. Duncan had a very feminine side to him. He would openly talk about that, like, oh, I wish I could be a woman. And, he really did acknowledge this kind of feminine in his own psyche. And always talked about Layla, this the goddess that influenced his muse,
Okay.
And in fact, when he left his wife, he left her for a very, very young woman who his son had dated.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. But anyway, he was very open about it, and it's in the play, so it's kind of common knowledge, and he would openly talk about it. But and it was great to cast Sally. When I first pitched the idea to her, she was like, I've never played a man. And but she was perfect. She was absolutely
wonderful.
Perfect.
Yeah.
It really, I think, was a shining experience for her. And she had played Margaret Chase Smith recently at that point.
She had just been wrapping it up, I think.
Yeah, but I want to say it might have been Sally's last role on stage.
It might be. She might have done one more.
Well, she did the storytelling things, and she did one that was, she participated in very much as an actor, the one about theater.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know if she had another role after that.
I remember seeing her in one of her last times doing the Margaret Chase Smith thing, but I don't remember if that was before or
I
after.
don't either.
Sally, if you're listening, let us know. Was Duncan Slade your last role that you've played so far?
Or is Lisa just making it up?
It was pretty close if it wasn't.
Yeah, she was outstanding.
Yeah.
She really was.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone was outstanding.
Yeah.
But I think the casting of Sally in that role was particularly interesting to people and to her too.
Yeah.
That was. I think back on that play a lot. It's just like it was well done. Dan was great.
Yeah.
Scott was great.
Scott was all right. Let's not inflate his ego any.
Oh, okay.
So did you have Scott in mind for that role from the beginning, or was it kind of just something that kind of happened?
It evolved, I think.
It did?
Yeah, it did.
Nice.
It was like, kind of okay, now who could play Duncan as a pilot, a young pilot?
Mm-hmm.
Who could play Duncan as a teacher?
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But, because it was original, the script was not set in stone,
Yeah.
unlike the plays that
Right.
you often do.
Yeah.
So it shaped itself around the actors in many ways too.
Mm.
The concept never really changed,
Mm-hmm.
but some of the lines and some of how, we imagine things evolved over the course of the read-throughs and the rehearsals.
Right.
Very neat.
Yeah.
Very neat.
It was great. It was just a wonderful experience.
Mm-hmm.
It was. It was. I went through a bit of turmoil at the time, but it was very, cathartic for me.
Mm.
It helped me kind of process what I was going through at the time. And of course, that community we made together helped get me through that time as well.
Mm-hmm.
And those words that I spoke of yours, they really inspired me and, made me think about things that I needed to change at the time and really helped me do that. And, like I keep saying, just making that leap and going for it with The Wizard of Oz. I mean, my whole life has changed. And that was another big part because I took that leap to play the lion. I did the storytelling show and met you. And then you asked me to do that. And then it made everything so much better.
Yeah. You all know this. It can be very healing,
Yes.
Yeah.
to play a role.
Yeah.
And to dig in to something that's outside of yourself, but becomes inside.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you don't always anticipate that when you start.
Right.
You know?
Right. You're just looking to entertain, maybe.
Yeah.
You're looking to
This
get your
looks
story
fun.
out, but
I'll do this.
Right.
So,
That's
Yeah, I heard this thing where that Native Americans after coming back from like battle, they would all gather around a fire and they would tell of like their glories and failures and stuff like that. And this psychiatrist was just like, I think that was really beneficial just because they were able to pour like empty their cups of like all this PTSD and like all this stress and all this hurt, and they were able to share it with other people around the fire to be able to share this load. And I was thinking that's like something that we still do today, like when we're telling these stories that are like real life stories and like these emotional stories and these funny stories, and like we're just like we're taking that part of ourselves and we're offering it to the audience.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think you're right that like going through some hard times, there's something that you can just like kind of like let go of on stage.
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely. Let's do a break.
Yeah.
It's a little early, but I need to take a break. All right, we're back.
just like that.
It was like we were never gone.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Yeah.
We weren't.
Nice. So, Lisa, we talked about more to come. And that was
Yeah,
great
I
fun.
think we did.
Yeah.
We did. It was great to go back and think about it again.
Yeah.
It was a good show.
It was a really good time.
Yeah.
We got to do it twice because we went up to the barn and did it there.
I wish we could do it again. Not we, but someone. I had hoped that perhaps like the high school, would, if they were doing a one-act play festival competition, it would have to get trimmed down a little bit.
Yeah.
It was about an hour long, and I think
You need like 45
you need like
tops.
45
Yeah.
tops for those. So anything that's written can get
Oh, totally.
trimmed down.
You could condense that for sure.
Absolutely. So, and I thought, I always thought it would be I've mentioned it to people, but then COVID hit and they didn't even do one-act play festivals. And
does this school have a drama program right now?
They did, but I don't know that they do anymore.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with it right now.
It's sad. It's a shame. There's not enough in the school happening right now.
No.
Well, we're going to have some high schoolers in a couple of weeks. So maybe we can ask them how it's going on over there. Yeah.
That's right.
I have a couple of questions. I don't know if
beautiful timing right there.
All right.
Go ahead.
I'm always fascinated by people's creative process on like writing and stuff. So I was just curious, what is your process in writing a play or writing a book or poem? Is there a process, or is it like just inspiration hits you and you just write it down, or
I think there's always process, but it's never the same twice.
Okay.
Yeah.
There are some poems that spill onto the page.
Yeah.
And they are, they're done.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But that's a very, very rare thing.
Yes.
I do find that when I was younger, I would maybe write 100 poems to get 12 poems that I liked.
Yeah.
Now I write like 15 to get 12.
Yeah.
I think that's changed for me as I've gotten older. There are many fewer that I just throw away.
Yeah.
So I used to throw away a lot.
But
I also, I got, I want to give a plug to West Coast, Maine magazine.
Okay.
That Bruce Little publishes. He hires writers and he actually pays us reasonably well.
Huh.
And he commissioned, I've done 5 short stories for that magazine. Okay. The first 3 that he purchased were stories that I had written 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I kind of pulled them out and worked them for the audience.
Okay.
The 4th one I wrote from scratch for the magazine. And I just wrote another one from scratch for the magazine.
Oh, cool.
So that's a different, you haven't even written a word of it. You're hired. It's like a commissioned piece.
Yeah. Cool.
So this one that just came out in the winter edition, I wanted to write a ski story about, that happens at a ski area.
Yeah.
So he liked that idea. And, but I literally hadn't even conceptualized it when he hired me to do it. So that was, and it, 3 months later, boom, there it is in print.
I'll have to read it. I haven't read it yet.
It's called Uphill.
Uphill.
Okay.
Yeah.
Both ways.
And it's got an ambiguous ending.
Ooh.
Yes.
Like
so
that.
Depending who reads it.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah.
Left up to their own interpretation.
Yes.
I like that.
I like that too.
Yes. Speaking of Dan Rennie, I ran into him at the Grange. I think we were seeing whatever the last play was. Now I'm blanking on it.
Spelling Bee, right?
It was Spelling Bee.
Yeah.
And he was going to the same performance that I was. And the magazine had just come out a week or so before that. And he saw me in the parking lot. Oh my God, Lisa, what are you trying to do to us with these stories? You're killing us. So that was a great reaction, to have somebody say that. But people, I don't get a lot of feedback.
Yeah.
So if you do read it, let me know what you
Okay.
think.
Yeah.
We will.
Yeah.
We'll read it.
Yeah.
For sure.
Great.
So not to push you
I don't think I
all.
answered your question very well.
Well, I'm just like, I'm just curious because like I have my own way of like, processing like, writing and stuff like that. I'm always trying to get better and seeing how people are doing theirs and trying to glean like something. So I was just like, for one, do you type it out or do you handwrite or?
I journal.
Okay.
So I usually start with handwriting.
Yeah.
But I more quickly go to the computer these days than I used to.
Yeah.
Just because it's efficient.
Yep.
Yeah.
So And I tend, when I teach writing, I suggest this. I tend to write long, draft long, and so for me, revision is cut.
Yep.
Yeah.
Trim. It's not very often that I think, wow, I need to add a whole lot of words here. I really shortchanged this image or sentence.
Yeah.
It's more about,
Yeah.
okay, so I kind of do page dumps.
Yeah.
To start with. And I'm a very fast typist.
Okay.
So I draft a lot. And then for me, the revision process is almost always deletion.
Yeah.
Huh.
Or replacing, choosing a better word or a cleaner image or,
Yeah.
but it's a lot of deleting. So
yeah,
I think that's consistent whether I'm writing poetry or prose.
Yeah.
Okay.
Write long, start trimming. Someone wrote, I should know who said this, draft drunk and edit sober. Yes.
Yes.
So it's that kind of principle, like just let it all, happen and then put it away. That's another thing that's very key for me.
Yeah.
I mean, it can be putting it away for 3 days.
Right.
Or it can be putting it away for a year.
Yeah.
But you've got to have that time to just get it away from you.
Yeah.
So that you can go
key.
Back with the kind of editor hat on.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is very different than the drafting hat.
Oh.
That was Ernest Hemingway that said that.
Oh, thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
That would totally make sense because he certainly did do a lot of drinking.
I thought it was Aaron who said that. Because I heard him say it on this podcast.
Yeah, I've said it before.
Yeah.
I like that quote a lot.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, and I think you're so right about letting things breathe. Because whenever I'm creating, it's very often that I'll set it down.
Sure.
Or I'll just close the laptop, walk away. It doesn't even have to be for long, but it's just
right.
It's just getting that fresh eyes.
Yep.
I don't like to use the word like judgment, but like just like critical. It's like, what don't I like?
Yes. I also find it, essential for me to let somebody else read it during the drafting stage.
Yeah.
And I know that makes some people uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But I find it essential because I will think something is just beautiful. And as soon as I read it aloud to other people, I see all the cracks and the flaws and the weaknesses and the words that maybe aren't the right words.
Yeah.
Because you're seeing it and hearing it from somebody else's perspective.
Yeah.
So like with More to Come, I thought the second scene was done. And as soon as I heard Scott read it, I'm like, whoa, this really needs work.
That scene did change a lot.
It changed a lot.
Yeah.
The first and the third didn't change that much, but that scene changed pretty radically.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
For the better, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I ran, we still meet, but for about 20 years, I did something called the Mountain Poets Society.
Yeah.
And we met once a month. And the whole purpose was to bring work that was a draft and share it with other people and get feedback.
Yeah.
And we did some great work.
Yeah.
Sometimes it would be 4 of us. Sometimes it would be 10 of us.
Yeah.
Most times somewhere in between. And it was very, very valuable for everybody.
Yeah. It's not easy.
No.
Letting like your work get critiqued. It's not.
Yeah.
When you get used to it, it's not that bad. But at first you're like here's my baby.
I know.
Right.
And then they're hacking it and they're like, no, this isn't good. This is, you're like, oh, no, my baby.
Yes. Well, I used to tell people that it was critique light.
Mm.
You know, we really did support each other.
Yes.
You know, and I, even as a teacher, I always would say the crappiest essay that some kid scrawls, 10 minutes before class, you can always find something good to say about it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Nice crossing of the T's.
That's really digging.
You spelled that one word right. Good for you. So, there is something about finding the good and then gently pointing out that you have no idea what the poem's about or, whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
No, it's interesting.
Yeah.
What do they call it? A hero sandwich? A good, bad, and then good.
Sure. Sure.
But
No, that was the
Redacted.
sandwich.
oh,
Redacted.
In the middle, nice piece of bread.
Right.
Redacted.
Yeah.
In the middle,
And then another piece of bread.
I'm glad that you described that.
Yes,
So-
thank you for painting that vivid picture.
Right.
So, talking about poetry,
Mhm.
now you were the poet laureate for.
I wish I were the
I
poet
thought
laureate.
you were a poet laureate
Many people have called me the poet laureate of
Yes.
Norway.
of Norway, right?
Yes, I have been
That was-
referred to that way
Yes,
many times, always with honor,
right.
but never anything official.
No, well, we're making it
But I
official.
have-
It's official here today.
It's official.
According
You heard
to
it
the
here.
Backstairs podcast.
Yes.
Lisa Moore
I
is
have
poet
applied
laureate
to be
of
the
Norway.
Maine state poet laureate
Yeah.
twice. The first time they appoint a new one every 5 years.
Yeah.
The first time, whatever. Wes McNair got it that year. He's a university professor. He's published real
Mhm.
books.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. But this last time, I was so disappointed.
Aw.
Mm.
I really was. But they don't, their criteria, I think they are looking for more academic,
Mm.
more traditional
Mm.
poets. But
Mm.
they made a really big mistake
Yeah,
that time.
Yeah.
They really did.
Yeah.
you gonna try again?
Well, I mean, I'm almost 70 years old, so I don't know. I you have to do a lot of traveling.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
I don't know.
Well, what does the poet laureate do of Maine?
You do basically whatever you set out to do.
Yeah,
There's a few things you have to do, like read at Governor Mills' inauguration,
Mm-hmm.
an original poem. And I think you're expected to attend certain events.
Yep.
But I proposed, a whole litany of things I would do, all of which were fabulous ideas.
Mhm.
So, and very community centric.
Yeah.
I do something called Poetry on Demand. Oh my gosh, it's so much fun.
Huh.
I have an electric typewriter. I
Yep.
go to a festival. I plug it in. People come and sit in the seat. And I say, what do you want me to write a poem about? And they tell me. And I let them pick out a piece of paper. I put it in the typewriter.
Yeah.
And I write a poem and I give it to them. And that's it.
That's cool.
It's
It's
so
so-
cool.
That's kind of like improv a
It
little bit.
is
you know?
improv.
It's
Yeah.
improv. Yeah.
It is.
it is.
Wow.
It's great.
Yeah.
I've had people cry
Oh,
and
wow.
just, just be so blown away that
Yeah.
I can write this
Mhm.
poem. And
Yeah.
basically I was just listening,
Yeah.
Yeah.
oh, my wife, loves her goats. Oh, tell me about the goats. And he'll tell me about the goats and how she holds the goats when she milks them. And, it's not hard
Yeah.
if you listen
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And I know at the Norway Arts Festival, I did it one year, and I probably did about 25 poems in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And I think almost all of them had raspberries in them. Like, it becomes kind of there's some images that start repeating themselves
Yeah.
Mm.
through the day. It's not that they're not original.
Mm-hmm.
Some rhyme, some don't. But the typewriter is great. and people respond to the sound because we don't hear that sound too much anymore.
Yeah.
So, people would be walking by going, "Oh my gosh, what's that sound?" It's like that clickety clack sound.
Yeah.
So if I make a mistake, I would correct it and sign it and give it to them. And it's just so transient, like improv.
Right.
Yeah.
It just happens and then it's gone.
You did that at the Arts Festival here a couple of years ago, right?
I did it a couple times. I've done it up at in Bethel. They do a thing at the Gem Theater for middle schoolers. I've done it there. I'd like to do more of that.
Yeah.
That was on my proposal.
Yeah.
For the Poet Laureate.
Well, you're welcome to come to the Backstairs podcast booth at the Arts Festival and do poetry on demand if you want to.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
Or I could set up right beside you.
Right.
That'd be
You
awesome.
guys are a little loud.
Yeah, we are loud.
We can be. Yeah. And John will be there. So
That does sound like us. You're right.
And it is kind of hard to concentrate sometimes.
Yeah,
it's like,
it's
I'm
true.
trying to write here.
Let it inspire you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You can come to us, get some inspiration.
There you go.
Then go off to your quiet little corner and do some.
Right.
Because we're very inspiring. Right. Right, Aaron?
That is one word for it. That is a word.
Is that a word?
Yeah,
Inspiring? Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, it is.
Oh, I just thought the word that he just used was. That's the word.
Shrugs and the eye rolls and the lip.
The eye rolls. Right. Yeah.
Well, we have a typewriter here if you want to write one up real quick.
No, thanks.
It doesn't work. So I'm glad she said no.
No, the typewriter is a cool thing. I found out listening to a podcast with Tom Hanks.
I know the book.
He collects
It's great.
typewriters.
Oh.
And he has a book called Uncommon Type.
Yeah, I want to read that.
It's a collection of short stories. It's quite good.
But anytime he writes someone a letter, he does it on his typewriter.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's got that feel, like the little indentations from
Yes.
the typewriter on it.
Yes.
And
It's three-dimensional.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very neat. It was a neat little
That
talk.
is cute. I don't know if cute's the right word, but I like that. It's very like precious and like
It is. That's a good word for it. It's precious then. And it's one of a kind.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist in any like cyber dimension.
yeah.
Yeah.
In the cloud.
It is what it is. And that's all it is.
Yeah. Yeah. They asked him like, well, what's that collection worth? He's like, maybe $1.50. But that isn't the reason he collects the typewriters. It's for that feeling that it gives
Each of
him.
the stories has a typewriter in the story. And it opens with a black and white graphic of the typewriter.
Yeah.
So you get a little history of typewriters, and it's a delightful book.
Oh wow. What was it called?
Uncommon Type.
I'll have to get it at the library.
Yeah.
They had it at Rennie's.
Oh, nice.
I bought like 6 of them because they were really inexpensive.
Yeah.
Little plug for Rennie's there.
Yeah.
A Maine
And,
adventure.
A Maine adventure.
yeah,
We should do a Rennie's commercial. They've been doing a little commercial every episode.
Well, they did the musical, Rennie's the musical. There were 2 at
Was it
Deer
really?
Trees. Yeah. Yeah.
Rennie's the musical?
Yes. There were actually 2 different ones. I don't remember who wrote them, but
Wow.
what's her name? She's married to Walter Reisman.
Jane.
Jane
Yeah.
directed, I think,
okay.
both of them.
Oh wow.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know
You could
that.
get her on the podcast.
Oh, we should. We should get
that's a good
Jane.
idea.
Oh
She's
my
great.
gosh, she
Yeah.
is. She's a firecracker.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jane,
That's
if you're
a good
listening,
idea.
Yeah, Jane.
reach out to us.
Yes.
Come on out.
Jane,
The Backstairs
Jane,
podcast at
we need
gmail.com.
you.
Yeah. That's a good idea. But the idea made me lose the idea I had to ask. What were we
Well,
talking
you said
about?
that you mentioned deer trees and you have a history with deer trees also,
yeah.
right?
I do. We've had a couple poetry readings there.
Okay.
The Commons Art Collective that I used to be involved with did art exhibits there.
Mm-hmm.
And Tony Seeger wrote a play. Oh my gosh, it must be 15 years ago or so, called Telephone. And somebody, I think she had cast, I guess it was probably 20 years ago, because I don't think we had lived here long. And she had cast the play and somebody dropped out.
Oh.
And she called me. And so I stepped in kind of a week before performance. I literally had the script on the stage because I didn't have time to learn the lines. Wow. So we just decided just to kind of go with it, you know?
Yeah.
And so that was it might have been my last time on stage before more to come.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. That's neat though. It's beautiful theater. I love that theater.
It is a beautiful theater.
Yeah.
We're lucky to have it here.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I feel ashamed I haven't been to a Deirdre show.
You should be ashamed. No, I'm just kidding. Don't be ashamed. It's fine. We'll
I
go.
am a little bit.
We'll go.
We got to go this year.
We're going to Dave's sauna.
Yeah,
I was going to
this
say,
summer.
you didn't
Right.
see Dave's sauna?
It fell on a weird week where we're both busy.
Oh, they did a great job, I thought. Did you see it, Scott?
No, I didn't.
They're bringing it back
It's
this
coming
summer.
back again.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you could have Jonathan on.
Yeah, we've definitely talked about that.
Yeah. Jonathan,
Right.
if you want to.
Remember, Jonathan, we got to get you on for a whole episode. We did have him on for the Arts Festival episode.
Oh, good.
For briefly, but
Yep.
he had some great stuff
Yeah, he
to
did.
say. I know we'd have a great
I
episode
was a
with him.
little skeptical. I thought, you
Yep.
know, I knew Dave, I knew the sauna, I know Jonathan, I know the crew. I mean, I felt like I should go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We loved it.
Oh, good.
I thought they did a fabulous job.
Wonderful.
We had a blast.
Everybody must have thought so. They're going to come bring it back.
Mhm.
So.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
It deserves another run.
Yeah. Great. So going back to the writing, you do poetry. You've done some short stories. You get a favorite genre? You like to mix it up with these stories?
I like to mix it up.
Yeah.
The ones that I've written for the magazine, the West Coast Maine magazine, have all been. When we were talking about process before, I wanted to bring up audience.
Yeah.
You know, I think my poetry collections, it's not that I'm writing for any person, but I'm writing for people who know me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I don't sell them, I gift them.
Yeah.
A long time ago, I decided enough with this publishing crap.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I had single poems picked up, and I came really close with a novel once, you know, to having it published, and it fell through.
Mm-hmm.
I finally just said, who needs it? I can make my living in other ways and separate the art from, you know, the writing for money.
Yeah.
So that works for me. So I do these little collections every 5 years. I've done it since 1990. So this will be in 2025 will be my 8th one.
Huh.
Nice.
And they're all that same format that you were looking at with the long pages that open.
Show the people, Scott.
Show the people.
Oh, thank you, Vanna.
And you see how they open?
Yeah.
So the story behind this is I had a friend who worked for a printer. And he said, we've got this stack of all this paper that was cut off from something.
Oh.
And it's all these long pieces. I think they would be really good for poetry. So the first book I did that way.
Yeah.
And it's nice because you don't have to have, the pages don't break.
Yeah.
So you get this long real estate.
Yeah.
You can put 2 poems or 1 long poem. You know, I usually put a real long one in the middle where there's no, seam.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, and I loved it so much and got so much positive feedback about it. I've done it ever since.
Huh.
So.
Very cool.
Do you mind if I read one? from
No, I would love to hear you read one.
you? So I just opened up to this one.
Would it be all right if you
Well,
want?
yeah, I
feel
think
that would
you
be-
should
Which
read
one?
it.
Which one do you want to read?
Is it,
That's what I opened up to, and I
Oh,
liked it.
Yeah,
That
you
is a
should
nice
read it
one.
for us.
Yeah.
was that?
well, how about if you read one and then I'll read one? But I want
Okay.
you to read a different one.
Okay.
I want you to read the one that's facing
On
that.
top?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, that's appropriate for this place.
we do have a couple of those.
Yeah. Yeah. This one is called Cat. I'm a cat in a household of dogs. I'm a toad in a river of frogs. I'm red on a palette of blues. I'm a hat in a closet of shoes. A breath in a room full of noise. I'm a girl in a family of boys.
I love it.
And I am a girl in a family of boys.
Me too.
Yes. I like that one a lot.
Yeah, that's
Thank
great.
you. Well, and I have to say that the one thing I love about my poems is that they're very accessible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, we get the New Yorker. Honest to God, I've been a poet since I was 4. And some of the poems in that magazine, it doesn't even matter how many times I read them. I have no idea what they're about.
Yeah.
So no one says that about my stuff. Oh, I should have thought ahead.
Sorry, we're just springing this on you.
That's okay. Well, he read one that rhymes. So let me read one that doesn't. Oh, this is nice because this is very much about teachers. And this is a really old one. The guitar lesson.
Mm.
Every Tuesday at 7 in 1965, my dad drove me to Linda Yoder's apartment, full of incense, jazz, tie-dye, and paperbacks. First, we tuned up while her bearded husband made us herbal tea. And then I'd play what she taught me the week before: Dylan, Carole King, Peter, Paul, and Mary. My fingers and voice tiptoed among the phrases, choruses, and pauses like a cautious kitten. Sometimes Linda Yoder sang while I played, like I was center stage, or she'd harmonize, her voice hugging mine. We sat on her frayed couch, her hair frizzy, her face freckled. She smelled of patchouli and lavender as she sang. She sang a new song, while I sat in rapture at the thought that next week I'd be able to sing it, after 7 late nights of singing it over and over, wishing I would grow up to have furniture and guitars and students and a bearded husband making tea. My dad picked me up at 8. Once Linda Yoder waited with me outside on her porch, catching snowflakes on our tongues, humming the song I had just learned, and never suspecting that I would write this poem in 40 years, still in love with her.
Oh,
That's beautiful.
Ooh, that is
I love
Thank
it.
you.
Wow. You have, and the way that you spoke it was just so vivid. Like I could picture every single thing,
Yeah.
you know?
Mm.
Yeah. Really neat. Thank you.
Thank you. That's just what I'm after.
That is
Yeah.
great.
Wow.
So, Janelle, you got anything you want to
Oh boy.
get into
I'm just
before we?
like enjoying
Yeah.
listening to all of your stories and experiences
Yeah,
and
oh, right. There was a story. We love to hear the stories of those fails, the stage
Mishaps
fails, the
and
mishaps.
mayhem.
Oh, yes.
Well, and you mentioned one.
I did. This is a really,
Yeah.
really old one.
Yes,
but-
please tell.
Let's
okay,
hear about
so
that
here's
one.
I'll set the stage. So I'm in college. I'm a theater major. I told you I loved costuming. I liked directing, stage managing,
yeah.
but you had to take a lighting course.
Mm.
That was a requirement. I've never been technological in any way.
Mhm.
So one of the requirements of the lighting course was that you had to be the lighting manager, the lighting tech,
Yeah.
for a major production. So I chose the Moliere play that happened in 2 acts. And at the beginning of Act 1, the lights go up. At the end of Act 2, Act 1, the lights go down. Beginning of Act 2, the lights go up. The end of Act 2, the lights go down. Easy peasy.
Perfect.
Right? You
Yep.
can't mess this up. Well, I fell asleep.
Yeah. That's
So
that's
That's
how you
one
would-
way to mess it up.
it's really the only way to mess it up. So the director was a professor who was a very flamboyant gay man, Charles Ballinger. I was always very intimidated by him anyway.
Yeah.
And so here I am in the lighting booth, which is in the back of the theater, upstairs,
Mhm.
this little dark room. And here I am, sound asleep.
Well, it's probably warm.
And the actors are on stage, and it's Moliere. So at the end, there's always a freeze. And the audience is cracking up, and the lights go down, and the house lights come up, and it's intermission. Except they're all on stage, frozen in this pose, in their costumes, and nothing happens. So it becomes uncomfortable, I'm sure, for everyone. The audience is wondering what's going on. I thought it was intermission. And Charles comes running up the stairs, and probably yells something blasphemous at me and wakes me up and shuts the lights down. And that was my
blackout.
I remember him saying something like, "Do you think you can handle Act 2?" So I did manage to pass the course.
Oh, that's good.
I think I could take it pass fail, but I did have to pass it.
Yeah.
So, but I was pretty good with the tests and the books and that stuff. But I didn't. It was a long time living that down.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was a good moment.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was, we're talking this was 40 years ago, and I can still remember it like it was yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
You don't forget those.
No.
Those stick out forever.
Yeah.
It's funny how moments like that where you feel like I would assume like shame and like disappointment, and at the moment it's like so terrible, and then 40 years later it's just you can laugh at it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I have countless fails in my life that I look back on and laugh at myself.
I think most people do.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you're not living well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
you
that's
take
good.
risks.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
So I think we're going to start to wrap things up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Good.
What we do here when we wrap up the show, we call it strike. You ever gone to a strike?
And she writes plays. She doesn't. She doesn't.
Well,
Yes, I do. I've certainly been to a strike. Yes.
Yeah. So you show up to strike.
Yes.
Yes. Good. Not everybody shows up for strike.
I'm sorry. It was one time that I didn't show up to strike. I'm sorry.
And you're still being reminded of it?
I guess. Well, it was recent. Sorry, Kristen.
We
friend
like,
of the podcast.
We like to tease people here. I don't know if you noticed, but for strike to end the show, we ask 5 questions. Okay. So your strike today, the first question is going to be, since you went to Notre Dame, did you know Rudy?
I did not, but I did know Joe Montana.
Oh, no way.
I tutored him.
You tutored Joe Montana.
He was the second string quarterback. Yeah. He never played first string at Notre Dame, but I did.
That's
tutored
cool.
Joe Montana. They probably don't even know who Joe Montana is.
I know who he is.
Joe Montana was.
He was like Tom Brady before Tom Brady.
He was Tom Brady before Tom Brady, right?
Yes.
Now, who's going to be the new Tom Brady is the question.
I think I have a Joe Montana card.
Oh, maybe it's worth some money. We have a cousin that just sold a Tom Brady rookie mint card for $950,000.
Whoa.
If you said 900, I'd be like, that's a lot of money.
I thought you were just going to say $950, and I was like, dang.
No.
Wow.
Jeez.
His grandfather bought it for him when he was born because it was his first grandson.
Yep.
Didn't know anything about, Tom Brady was nobody.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And the guy sold him this card for $300. He put it in the closet.
Wow. Thanks,
25
Grandpa.
years later.
That's it.
The return on that.
Yeah, that's going to say that's a good turn in investments.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All right. Second question. What are you listening to?
You mean music?
Yeah. Could
music,
whatever.
Podcasts, whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
Well, not podcasts.
No.
we don't get any cell reception at my house. I could listen on my laptop, but I work on my laptop. So when I want to relax, I get away from my laptop.
Yep.
I am embarrassed to admit that I listen to NPR an awful lot.
Yeah.
That's not
Nothing embarrassing about that.
Yeah.
It's
That's all right.
fine.
I do.
Yeah.
I have it on
I
speed
do.
dial in my car.
The Hidden Brain. Oh my gosh, I
Some
could
of this-
listen to that every
Some of
day.
the stories that come through NPR,
Yeah.
like the Moth Radio
Yes,
Hour, I love.
absolutely. That's what I like to listen to.
Yeah,
The Moth is.
We
what
listen to
inspired
vinyl
Sally.
at home.
Mhm.
We still have a vinyl record player.
yeah, we got.
So we
We have
pull out
lots.
the old
Yeah.
albums,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Humble Pie we listened to
Wow.
last night. So
Yeah,
Nice.
I heard that the Moth is coming to Merrill
Really?
Auditorium. I know. I was, like,
cool.
I was thinking about going. to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That'd be fun.
That would be fun.
Are they inviting local people to tell stories?
I assume. You should look
Yeah,
that
you-
up.
Yeah.
Oh my
Mhm.
goodness, I didn't even think
Mm-hmm.
you should.
Yeah. So, do you have any guilty pleasure musicals? Since we are a musical theater loving
Guilty pleasure
crowd.
musicals.
Or just a favorite.
Well, interestingly, I did put the Pippin vinyl
Yeah.
on the other
Mm.
night,
There you go.
and I hadn't listened to it,
Mm.
since we directed it at Hebron back in
Yep.
probably 1980.
Mhm.
And amazingly, I could still sing all the words to
Yeah.
most of the songs.
Mhm.
And that happened with Godspell
Yep.
when I saw it
They're
here.
both. Are they both Stephen Schwartz shows? I think they are. Right?
I think they might be, yes.
He has a way of writing
Yes.
those catchy tunes. So
Yes.
you saw Godspell.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Are
I
you kidding?
directed Godspell.
And
so
I
there-
was not, I was sitting there and thinking, okay, I wonder if I'm going to remember any of this.
Yeah.
Every
You do.
word.
That's awesome.
Every word.
That's good.
So
Mm.
Cool.
Great.
songs that
Very
I
cool.
didn't even know I remembered. Oh
Mhm.
my gosh, I forgot about that one. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder what that is like in our memory, where songs like
yeah,
like there's things like that will pop up from like childhood,
right.
Yeah.
and I'll be like, yeah, I know
Mhm.
exactly the words of this song, and I
Mhm.
haven't heard it in 20 years.
And I think when you're in a show, you
Oh,
hear it
especially if
so
you're-
many times.
Oh man,
By the time, you
Yeah.
strike,
Yeah.
you've heard it 100 times.
Yep.
Yeah.
You've sung it 90.
Yeah.
So it's pretty imprinted
Yeah.
in a deep
absolutely.
way.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
it's funny. Bull Moose, they a few years ago did like a gag Christmas ad where they were going to sell Maine commercials, like their jingles,
Like the jingles. Yeah.
CD, and I got so
Mhm.
excited just because
Yeah.
like they would play like these jingles that I haven't heard in so many years, and I'm like, this is so cool. Like the Rennie's commercials
Mhm.
and like I don't know, there was other ones.
It wasn't Christmas. It was April Fool's. It was
Was
an
it-
April
it-
Fool's joke.
but it was still it was
Was
a
it-
great joke.
Mm.
Was it Lost Valley that had that like whistle? It wasn't really, there weren't any words to it, but it like the whistling tune.
Isn't
Was
that
it Lost
Hammond
Valley?
Lumber?
No.
Like the-
Yeah, it was. I remember it was a ski resort. But I was thinking it was Lost Valley, but it might have been.
Well, they're
Shawnee
whistling
Peak.
Hammond Lumber,
Yeah.
that's for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Iconic.
Yeah.
Iconic.
It's very
Sure.
kind of a wispy.
Anyways,
Yeah.
Yeah.
back to the question. Sorry.
Yeah, sure, that's all right.
Strike 3.
Strike 3. That was strike 3.
Oh, strike 4. Sorry. I'm not.
Strike 4.
Who's counting?
You got any thoughts on new ways to stage shows?
Oh. Well, I'm going to just go with the first thing that came to my mind, and that would be outdoors.
Mhm.
Yep.
We're getting
Yeah.
out a lot.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
I think the
that's a great
COVID
idea.
thing,
Mhm.
like the Allen Day Garden has a small
Mm-hmm.
covered stage area
Yeah.
that
Mm.
they put up in the summers. Someone could do something bigger
Yeah.
Yeah.
outdoors.
Yeah.
I mean, there's that risk, but good
Mhm.
Lord, they do Shakespeare in the Park
Mhm.
Right.
in New York City every
Mhm.
year. You're going to put up a tent.
Yeah.
I think outdoors is the way to go. And there's also over at the fairground, there's that enormous
Yeah.
Yep.
theater
Yeah.
that could be used.
Yeah.
So
I hadn't thought about the community garden. They do have a little stage.
yeah,
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah. It's a good idea.
Very cool.
Awesome. So one more question, and we kind of asked it maybe, but what I usually end with is, in your opinion, how do we build a community?
well, we kind of started there with the
Mm.
bubbles and the Venn diagrams. And we talked about this in the kitchen, but I'm kind of glad to bring it up again. 2 weekends ago, a very close friend celebrated an 80th birthday.
Yeah.
And I like to do this thing where I rewrite the words to a popular song that's easy for everybody to sing to celebrate the person. And it's, it's not theater, but it's just so community building. The community is just whoever's in the room, but it's very community building. So it pulls people in, for everybody to sing a song together.
Yeah.
It makes everybody feel like they're an actor for a minute.
Yeah.
And so that's that. I think my point is that they can be simple things, to just get everybody to just, we did, when you're at the arts festival, I had this idea that we would set the Guinness World Book of Records for how many people recite a poem together. And the record was set in Tibet 20 years ago. They had 50,000 people recite some poem in a big stadium. So I thought, well, we can do this. So we decided to do Jabberwocky.
Yeah.
And we did get a couple hundred people to come and recite Jabberwocky at the arts festival. No, we didn't set a record, but I think we set a record for Norway.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But the community that was created from that simple exercise was really pretty great. Yeah. Kids, parents, people that, came from all over the place because they knew we were doing this. And, people showed up because we were doing Jabberwocky at 12:30 in the afternoon.
Wow, cool.
And it was cool. So I think there's opportunities to pull people in that don't even think of themselves as performers.
Yeah.
So does that answer your question?
I think so.
Yeah.
Some great thoughts
on
that.
May I add a sixth question to strike? Is that allowed?
Well, we're going to talk to the producers.
Well, you are the.
Let me just answer myself. Yes, Janelle, you may add a sixth question to strike. I really would love to know, do you have any upcoming projects, things that you're working on, things that you're excited about?
Well, I have my 2025 collection. So that's in process. And my husband and I are writing a play together, and we have been for a very long time. But it's called Drinking in the City of My Fathers. And it takes place in a U-shaped bar with, a couple people on one side of the bar, a couple people on the other side of the bar, and the bartender. And maybe a bus person that comes in and out.
Okay.
I don't want to give away too much.
Yeah, don't.
But the people on one side of the bar are in one dimension, and the people on the other side of the bar are in a different dimension, and the bartender serves them both. So there's some moments where there's overlap, but it's a one-act play.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, a little spooky in the beginning. You don't want the audience to really know what's going on at first. And then there's a point where they maybe figure it out. So it's in process. Fun. Yeah.
Well, I'm excited. I'm excited to see it someday. Hopefully.
Yes.
Hopefully.
You'd be a great bartender.
Oh, I would love to be in it. Let me know.
Yeah.
Cool. Very neat. Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome.
That's great. This has been a lot of fun. It's always fun to see you.
Always.
Anything else you want to plug or mention before we wrap things up?
No. I just, I was thinking of my brother, who is an accountant who still lives in Ohio. We had a very deep conversation about the story Uphill, which was so out of the box. My brother doesn't even read very much, let alone want to talk to me about a story. But he said, I could write a really good short story about doing people's taxes. And I said, I bet you could. He goes, well, maybe next time we talk, I can tell you about it and you can write it. And I said, no, it's not my story.
Yeah.
You write it. So I would just encourage everybody to write the stories down. Get it down on paper. You don't have to send it to a magazine.
Yep.
Even if you just put it in a drawer for somebody to find someday.
Yeah.
It's enough. And as you were saying, it's, it's a way to figure things out for yourself.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, that's a beautiful way to end that
I think so,
episode,
too.
I think.
Yeah. Do you have socials or a website that people can see your work or any?
I do not. I have my little books.
You have your little books.
Yeah.
Well, cool.
She sends them out.
Yep.
Very cool.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Lisa.
You are very
Yes.
welcome. Thanks for inviting me, and keep up the good work.
Yeah.
You too.
Yeah.
Yes, you too.
Yes, you too.
We look forward to
We're gonna-
hearing more from you.
Yeah, we're going to get those West Coast magazines and read them stories.
Mhm.
Not
Yeah,
West
and-
Coast.
No, Western Maine.
No,
What
it
was
is West Coast.
Yeah,
Is it West Coast?
Believe it or not, that's
Yeah.
the
Oh.
name of the magazine.
Oh, I'm
West
sorry.
Coast, Maine.
Yeah,
West
because
Coast,
we're on the
Maine.
west coast of Maine.
Okay.
Okay.
There's no water. I mean, there's plenty of water around. So
There's New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Huh. I'm sorry.
All right. Well, there we go.
Yes.
You said West Coast. I changed it in my mind to Mid Coast.
Of course you did.
Well, we're not mid coast either.
Well, it's like it's a magazine. Maybe
We're
they're
no
maybe
coast.
they're in the Mid Coast. Yeah, you can send if she can send things to Boston, she can send them to Mid Coast, Maine.
That's true.
So
She could do that.
True.
Well, on that
Anyways.
note, this has been the Backstairs Podcast.
The Backstairs Podcast.
The Backstairs Podcast.
And the Backstairs Podcast.
All right.
Great.
This has been the Backstairs Podcast. You can stream the audio or video format of this episode anywhere that you listen to your podcasts. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at The Backstairs Podcast. Send us an email at thebackstairspodcast@gmail.com. Redacted!